Wiki Whispers. Today we're looking at Roman roads. Roman roads, or in Latin, Via Romana, meaning Roman way, were physical infrastructure vital to the maintenance and development of the Roman state, and were built from about 300 BC through the expansion and consolidation of the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire. They provided efficient means for the overland movement of armies, officials, civilians, inland carriage of official documentations, communications, and trade goods. Roman roads were of several kinds, ranging from small local roads to broad, long-distance highways built to connect cities, major towns, and military bases. These major roads were often stone-paved and metalled, cambered for drainage, and were flanked by footpaths, bridleways, and drainage ditches. They were laid along accurately surveyed courses, and some were cut through hills or conducted over rivers and ravines on bridge work. Sections could be supported over marshy ground on rafted or piled foundations. At the peak of Rome's development, no fewer than 29 great military highways radiated from the capital, and the late empire's 113 provinces were interconnected by 372 great roads. The whole comprised more than 400,000 kilometers, or 250,000 miles of roads, of which over 80,500 kilometers, or 50,000 miles, were stone paved. In Gaul alone, no less than 21,000 kilometers, or 31,000 miles of roadways are said to have been improved, and in Britain at least 4,000 kilometers, or 2,500 miles. The courses, and sometimes the surfaces, of many Roman roads survived for millennia. Some are overlaid by modern roads. Roman systems. Livy mentions some of the most familiar roads near Rome, and the milestones on them, at times long before the first paved road, the Appian Way. Unless these allusions are just simple anachronisms, the roads referred to were probably at the time little more than levelled earthen tracks. Thus, the Via Gabina, during the time of Porsenna, is mentioned in about 500 BC. The Via Latina, during the time of Coriolanus, is about 490 BC. The Via Nomentana, also known as Via Ficulensis, in 449 BC. The Via Labicana in 421 BC, and the Via Salaria in 361 BC. In the itinerary of Antoninus, the description of the road system after the death of Julius Caesar and during the tenure of Augustus is as follows. With the exception of some outlying portions, such as Britain north of the Wall, Dacia, and certain provinces east of the Euphrates, the whole empire was penetrated by these itinera. There is hardly a district to which we might expect a Roman official to be sent on service, either civil or military, where we do not find roads. They reach the wall in Britain, run along the Rhine, the Danube, and the Euphrates, and cover, as with a network, the interior provinces of the empire. A road map of the empire reveals that it was generally laced with a dense network of prepared via, or ways. Beyond its borders there were no paved roads, however. It can be supposed that footpaths and dirt roads allowed some transport. There were, for instance, some pre-Roman ancient trackways in Britain, such as the Ridgeway and the Icknield Way. Laws and traditions. The laws of the 12 Tables, dated to about 450 BC, required that any public road be 8 Roman feet, perhaps about 2.37 meters wide, where straight, and twice that width when curved. These were probably the minimum widths for a via. In the later Republic, widths of around 12 Roman feet were common for public roads in rural regions, permitting the passing of 2 carts of standard 8-foot width without interference to pedestrian traffic. Actual practices varied from this standard. The tables command Romans to build public roads and give wayfarers the right to pass over private land where the road is in disrepair. Building roads that would not need frequent repair therefore became an ideological objective, as well as building them as straight as practicable to construct the shortest possible roads and thus save on material. Roman law defined the right to use a road as a servitus, or liability. The ius iundi, right of going, established a claim to use an iter, or footpath, across private land. The ius ageni, right of driving, an actus, or carriage track. A via combined both types of servitutes, provided it was of the proper width, which was determined by an arbiter. The default width was the latitudo legitima of 8 feet. Roman law and tradition forbade the use of vehicles in urban areas, except in certain cases. Married women and government officials on business could ride. The Lex Julia Municipalis restricted commercial carts to nighttime access in the city, within the walls, and within a mile outside the walls. Types. Roman roads varied from simple corduroy roads to paved roads using deep roadbeds of tamped rubble as an underlying layer to ensure that they kept dry, as water would flow out from between the stones and fragments of rubble, instead of becoming mud in clay soils. According to Ulpian, there were 3 types of road: via publica, consulares, praetoria or militaris; via private, rustica, clarae or agraria; and via vicinales. The first type of road included public high or main roads, constructed and maintained at the public expense, and with their soil vested in the state. Such roads led either to the sea, or to a town, or to a public river, one with constant flow, or to another public road. Siculus Flaccus, who lived under Trajan between 98 and 117 AD, calls them via publicae regalesque, and describes their characteristics as follows. They are placed under curatores, commissioners, and repaired by redemptores, contractors, at the public expense. A fixed contribution, however, being levied from the neighbouring landowners. These roads bear the name of their constructors, via Appia, Cassia, Flaminia. Roman roads were named after the censor who had ordered their construction or reconstruction. The same person often served afterwards as consul, but the road name is dated to his term as censor. If the road was older than the office of censor, or was of unknown origin, it took the name of its destination, or of the region through which it mainly passed. A road was renamed if the censor ordered major work on it, such as paving, repaving, or rerouting. With the term via regales, compare the roads of the Persian kings, who probably organized the first system of public roads, and the King's Highway. With the term via militaria, compare the Icknildway, e.g. Icknhildaway, or Warway of the Iceni. However, there were many other people, besides special officials, from who from time to time, and for a variety of reasons, sought to connect their names with a great public service like that of the roads. Gaius Gracchus, when tribune of the people between 123 and 122 BC, paved or gravelled many of the public roads and provided them with milestones and mounting blocks for riders. Again, Caius Scribonius Curio, when tribune in 50 BC, sought popularity by introducing a lex viaria, under which he was to be chief inspector or commissioner for 5 years. Dio Cassius mentions, as one of the forcible acts of the triumphs of 43 BC, Octavianus, Antony, and Lepidus, that they obliged the senators to repair the public roads at their own expense. The second category included private roads or country roads, originally constructed by private individuals in whom their soil was vested, and who had the power to dedicate them to the public use. Such roads benefited from a right of way in favour either of the public or of the owner of a particular estate. Under the heading of via privatae were also included roads leading from the public or high roads to particular estates or settlements. These Ulpian considered to be public roads in themselves. Features off the via were connected to the via by via rusticae, or secondary roads. Both main or secondary roads might either be paved or left unpaved with a gravel surface, as they were in North Africa. These prepared but unpaved roads were via glariae, or sternendae, to be strewn. Beyond the secondary roads were the via terranae, or dirt roads. The third category comprised roads at or in villages, districts, or crossroads, leading through or towards a vicus or village. Such roads ran either into a high road or into another via vicinales, without any direct communication with a high road. They were considered public or private, although according to the fact of their original construction out of public or private funds or materials. Such a road, though privately constructed, became a public road when the memory of its private constructors had perished. Siculus Flaccus describes via vicinales as roads de publicus quae divertunt in agros et saepe ad alteras publicas perveniunt, which turn off the public roads into fields and often reach to other public roads. The repairing authorities in this case were the magistri pagorum, or magistrates of the cantons. They could require the neighbouring landowners to either to furnish labourers for the general repair of the via vicinales, or to keep keep in repair at their own expense a certain length of road passing through their respective properties. With the conquest of Italy, prepared via were extended from Rome and its vicinity to outlying municipalities, sometimes overlying earlier roads. Building via was a military responsibility and thus came under the jurisdiction of a consul. The process had a military name, viam munire, as though the via were a fortification. Municipalities, however, were responsible for their own roads, which the Romans called via vicinales. The beauty and grandeur of the roads might tempt us to believe that any Roman citizen could use them for free, but this was not the case. Tolls abounded, especially at bridges. Often they were collected at the city gate. Freight costs were made heavier still by import and export taxes. These were only the charges for using the roads. Cost of services on the journey went up from there. Financing road building was a Roman government responsibility. Maintenance, however, was generally left to the province. Officials tasked with fundraising were curatores viarum. They had a number of methods available to them. Private citizens with an interest in the road could be asked to contribute to its repair. High officials might distribute largesse to be used for roads. Censors, who were in charge of public morals and public works, were expected to fund repairs sua pecunia with their own money. Beyond those means, taxes were required. A via connecting two cities. A via connected two cities. Via were generally centrally placed in the countryside. The construction and care of the public roads, whether in Rome, in Italy, or in the provinces, was, at all periods of Roman history, considered to be a function of the greatest weight and importance. This is clearly shown by the fact that censors, in some respects the most venerable of Roman magistrates, had the earliest paramount authority to construct and repair all roads and streets. Indeed, all the various functionaries, not excluding the emperors themselves, who succeeded the censors in this portion of their duties, may be said to have exercised a devolved censorial jurisdiction. The devolution of the censorial jurisdictions soon became a practical necessity, resulting from the growth of the Roman dominions and the diverse labours which detained the censors in the capital city. Certain ad hoc official bodies successfully acted as constructing and repairing authorities. In Italy, the censorial responsibility passed to the commanders of the Roman armies and later to special commissioners. and in some cases perhaps to local magistrates. In the provinces, the consul or praetor and his legates received authority to deal directly with the contractor. The care of the streets and roads within the Roman territory was committed in the earliest times to the censors. They eventually made contracts for paving the street inside Rome, including the Clivus Capitolinus with lava, and for laying down the roads outside the city with gravel. Sidewalks were also provided. The aediles, probably by virtue of their responsibility for the freedom of traffic and policing the streets, cooperated with the censors and the bodies that succeeded them. It would seem that in the reign of Claudius, AD 41 to 54, the quaestors had become responsible for the paving of the streets of Rome, or at least shared that responsibility with the quaestorviri viarum. It has been suggested that the quaestors were obliged to buy their right to an official career by personal outlay on the streets. There was certainly no lack of precedence for this enforced liberality, and the change made by Claudius would have been a mere change in the nature of the expenditure imposed on the quaestors. The official bodies which first succeeded the censors in the care of the streets and roads were two in number. They were quaestorviri vius in urbe pergandus, with jurisdiction inside the walls of Rome, duoviri vius extra ubem pergandus, with jurisdiction outside the walls. Both these bodies were probably of ancient origin, but the true year of their institution is unknown. Little reliance can be placed on Pomponius, who states that the quaestorviri were instituted eodem tempore at the same time as the praetor peregrinus, about 242 BC, and the decemviri libtibus judicandis, time unknown. The first mention of either body occurs in the Lex Julia Municipalis of 45 BC. The quaestorviri were afterwards called quaestorviri viarum curandarum. The extent of jurisdiction of the duoviri is derived from their full title as duoviri vius extra propiusve urbem Romam passus mille purgandis. Their authority extended over all roads between their respective gates of issue in the city wall and the first milestone beyond. In case of emergency in the condition of a particular road, men of influence and liberality were appointed or voluntarily acted as curatores or temporary commissioners to superintend the work of repair. The dignity attached to such a curatorship is attested by a passage in Cicero. Among those who perform this duty in connection with particular roads was Julius Caesar, who became curator of the Via Appia and spent his own money liberally upon it. Certain persons appear also to have acted alone and taken responsibility for certain roads. In the country districts, as has been stated, the Magistri Pagorum had authority to maintain the Via Vicinales. In Rome itself, each householder was legally responsible for the repairs to that portion of the street which passed his own house. It was the duty of the aediles to enforce this responsibility. The portion of any street which passed a temple or public building was repaired by the aediles at the public expense. When a street passed between a public building or temple and a private house, the public treasury and the private owner shared the expense equally. No doubt, if only to secure uniformity, the personal liability of householders to execute repairs of the street was commuted for a paving rate payable to the public authorities who were responsible from time to time. The governing structure was changed by Augustus, who, in the course of his reconstitution of the urban administration, both abolished and created new offices in connection with the maintenance of public works, streets, and aqueducts in and around Rome. The task of maintaining the roads had previously been administered by two groups of minor magistrates, the Quattuori, a board of 4 magistrates to oversee the roads inside the city, and the Duoviri, a board of 2 to oversee the roads outside the city proper, who were both part of the collegia known as the Vicintisexuiri, literally meaning 26 men. Augustus, finding the collegia ineffective, especially the boards dealing with road maintenance, reduced the number of magistrates from 26 to 20, completely abolishing the Duoviri and later being granted the position as superintendent, according to Dio Cassius, of the road system connecting Rome to the rest of Italy and provinces beyond. In this capacity he had effectively given himself and any following emperors a paramount authority which had originally belonged to the city censors. The Quattuori board was kept as it was until at least the reign of Hadrian between 117 and 138 AD. Furthermore, he appointed praetorians to the office of road maker and assigned each one with 2 lictors, also making the office of curator of each of the great public roads a perpetual magistracy rather than a temporary commission. The persons appointed under the new system were senatorial and equestrian rank, depending on the relative importance of the roads assigned to them. It was the duty of each curator to issue contracts for the maintenance of his road and to see that the contractor who undertook said work performed it faithfully, as to both quantity and quality. Augustus also authorized the construction of sewers and removed obstructions to traffic, as the aediles did in Rome. It was in the character of an imperial curator, though probably armed with extraordinary powers, that Corbulo denounced the magistratus and mancipes of the Italian roads to Tiberius. He pursued them and their families with fines and imprisonment for 18 years between 21 and 39 AD, and was later rewarded with a consulship by Caligula, who also shared the habit of condemning well-born citizens to work on the roads. It is worth noting that under the rule of Claudius, Corbulo was brought to justice and forced to repay the money which had been extorted from his victims. Special curatores for a term seem to have been appointed on occasion, even after the institution of the permanent magistrates bearing that title. The emperors who succeeded Augustus exercised a vigilant control over the condition of the public highways. Their names occur frequently in the inscriptions to restorers of roads and bridges. Thus, Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Trajan, and Septimus Severus were commemorated in this capacity in Emerita. The Itinerary of Antoninus, which was probably a work of much earlier date, republished in an improved and an enlarged form under one of the Antonine emperors, remains as standing evidence of the minute care which was bestowed on the service of public roads. I think this is a good point to end this video. If you wish for me to continue a part 2 of this Wikipedia reading, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can go to my Patreon in the description if you want to support